So welcome to our discussion today around IBM Cloud for Telecommunications, an open hybrid cloud architecture designed to help telecommunications providers address the specific challenges of the highly regulated industry. One of IBM's key partners is Altiostar for Virtual RAN. My name is Ian Gillett from IGR, and today I am joined by Brian Norton, who is CTO of Telco Network Cloud for IBM, and Anil Bhandari, who is Vice President of Product Management at Altiostar. So, gentlemen, let's dive straight into this. First question, and Anil, I think we'll start with you. There's a lot of industry momentum right now around virtual RAN. So what exactly is it? What are we talking about? And really, what's driving it?
So I think one has to first understand the concept of open RAN before we talk about virtual RAN. So as we all know today, the RAN architectures, they are all proprietary closed solutions. And this hinders innovation and limits operators to certain predefined use cases. Now in Open RAN, what we do is that we remove the, these proprietary expensive hardware and we replace it with, commercial off-the-shelf hardware. And at the same time, we also disaggregate the entire closed ecosystem into different components with open interfaces. Now, virtual RAN, what it does is, or as we call it, vRAN, it applies the principles of NFV, whereby the RAN network functions are now virtualized and they are deployed on cloud platforms. So this basically, it brings all the benefits of cloud for the operators. And some of the key ones being that now operators are able to take a platform-centric approach, whereby they are deploying not only their other applications like core, OSS, BSS, but also RAN network functions on a common platform. And that breaks down the silos that they have and allows them to minimize their CapEx and OpEx. Another very important benefit of virtualized RAN is that now these network functions can be flexibly deployed in the network depending on the use case without necessarily the need for truck roll. And this is very important for operators, especially in the context of 5G, where they have to support not only higher cell density, higher device density, but they have to support variety of use cases without necessarily, deploying physical network functions. And we have done TCO analysis, which shows that with virtual RAN, there are 30 to 40% savings both on OpEx and CapEx.
Brian, same question?
Yeah, I mean, very much to echo what Anil said, disaggregation into, I guess, white box hardware and software gives a lot of architectural flexibility. So you can reduce your footprint through pooling and, kind of data center or cloud type techniques. But also you can leverage cloud to add resilience for the now software-based functions that used to be hardware from an issue problem kind of resolution point of view. Anil mentioned open. Some of the very exciting things we've seen though revolve around kind of innovation use cases. For example, we spoke to a greenfield provider in North America who are now working with startups in Silicon Valley to build specific radio controllers for IoT use cases, for example, managing drones. So beams are pointing upwards rather than downwards and worrying about bouncing off buildings and all that kind of complicated stuff. So because you've now got an open disaggregated stack, this is possible, right? So I can now put logic into that kind of platform that in this case would optimize spectrum for particular use cases. So that's another aspect to it that we think is very, very exciting.
So that's interesting. So you're saying there's really, you have a dedicated RAN, a RAN optimized for a specific use case, in that case drones, which of course we've never had before, right?
We've never had before, right? And the way it was pitched to me by the CTO of this telco, right, was, he had some staggering figures for how much more efficient his spectrum would be for those use cases. Mm-hmm. And he had a whole bunch of very clever kind of PhD types in Silicon Valley figuring this stuff out, right? And it's only enabled by the level of openness that Anil mentioned earlier on. It's true disaggregation, right? Everything is disaggregated.
Right. And I think, Anil, you brought up a good point about the truck rolls. People forget that a lot of the cost of deploying a RAN is actually getting people out to the site to put the equipment up, change out antennas, change out radios, etc. So that your point there is a good one. So let's move on to the second question. In a disaggregated RAN,
Yeah, easy to say.
Ooh. Of course, there's multiple systems here, and we're going to have multiple vendors involved. So how do you address the integration of the various components to ensure the scalability and also performance, which of course we're going to need? Anil?
So first of all, we need to understand that when the RAN has been disaggregated, industry has ensured that there are open interfaces between all the disaggregated functions. So that's very important. And this has been driven through, there are forums like ORAN, where there is participation both from vendors as well as from operators. Some of the largest operators in the world, they are part of ORAN. Now, the second aspect that I want to highlight is that disaggregation has happened successfully in past in telecom industry, where, with separation of core network functions from radio. And again, through the use of open interfaces, and that past disaggregation effort brought significant benefits to the industry. So now we understand that operators want to buy RAN as bundled offering because that's the way they have been deploying. And what we are doing is that we are working with multiple partners to ensure that we provide fully tested and integrated solution blueprints to them. We also make sure that we take the responsibility of meeting the network KPIs. So operators still have a single neck to choke from performance perspective. And on top of this, these blueprints that we are developing, because there are open interfaces, operators still have the flexibility of choosing whatever partner they believe is going to provide them best of the breed hardware. And then we help in ensuring that that solution has been validated with our software. So overall, I mean, my view is that disaggregated RAN with cloud native, network functions will, it provides unprecedented scalability, and it really is an opportunity for the operators to apply the cloud principles and network automation to reduce their, or to control, in fact, I would not even say reduce, but control their TCO in the 5G world.
Brian?
Yeah, I mean, again, all aspects of the vRAN are now disaggregated, which we discussed as a really cool thing. But all of these components can be procured and assembled independently from one operator to the next. Albeit with Anil's blueprint. However, all of the software components, from Altiostar and beyond, are very dependent on underlying hardware accelerator, configuration, tuning, everywhere. I mean, it's a highly accelerated environment, right? So all aspects of those accelerators need to be in place. All the firmware that is required to be tuned for those accelerators, all the operating systems that that Anil's blueprint would highlight needs to be managed. All of the life cycle of those piece parts that make up that blueprint need to be managed independently, and then as a collective to deliver that performance that Anil is talking about. And vertically, there's a set of dependencies or automations that have to be managed without humans involved whatsoever, but there's also a set of horizontal dependencies or integrations that need to be managed between the pieces of software in the RAN, but also in the core. So all of this as a collective needs to be at a massive scale, needs to be fully automated for this to fly as a as a platform option at all, right?
Right. And I think you both raised good points. It's obviously we have scale in the mobile industry. We have tens of thousands of base stations, more in some countries, but of course we do need that performance. RAN is it's a critical function, but it is compute intensive, and it needs the performance. The core is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think certification of the piece parts, and so that, you know, Neil's blueprint can be tested against a variety of components is a really important kind of part of all of this, right? So certification that the performance with the right kind of hardware and tuning of infrastructure and all that kind of stuff, and being sure that you can automate that into place at scale is just table stakes for this to work, right?
Yep. So, so what is the scope of AltioStar and IBM's collaboration with Virtual RAN?
IBM and AltioStar, we are working together, and the idea is with the idea of developing blueprint, and that blueprint essentially is supposed to help in automated deployment, and as well as policy driven, I would say, operations. It is expected to bring repeatability in the operations, thereby minimizing errors. So as part of this exercise, we are integrating with IBM's orchestration platforms, TNCO. So that's where we are at, and we expect this activity to be completed soon.
Okay, all right. So as we said at the beginning, there's obviously a lot of momentum right now around virtual RAN. How mature is virtual RAN? I know there's been operators who announced plans for networks being built using Open RAN, but how mature would you say the technology is? Neil, let's start with you.
The technology is here now. It's mature. There are thousands of sites that are deployed, which are making use of virtual RAN, and the deployment spans multiple form factors, so and multiple 3GPP radio access technologies. So our deployments are covering both 4G and 5G, and massive MIMO, millimeter wave, macros, 44-hour macros, as well as small cells. So entire gamut of form factors and radio access technologies are being deployed with virtual RAN today.
Brian, from IBM's perspective, you've obviously got a lot of cloud initiatives across different industries. Right?
I think from our point of view, there's two aspects, right? The Red Hat OpenShift kind of platform foundation, if you like, provides that low latency performance kind of runtime, cloud-based runtime that AltioStar will run on at the far edge and across kind of traditional kind of data center setups, right? But on the automation side, we already have, as Anil was saying, we already have a repository of out of the box automations for those piece parts that we discussed, for the kind of hardware aspects that need to be automated, and also the software aspects that need to be assembled and run on top of those hardware platforms and on top of OpenShift. So we are quite down the line for full zero touch automation at scale of vRAN solutions within IBM now, and monitoring and kind of resolving issues across that estate automatically.
All right. Well, great. Well, Brian Norton from IBM, Anil Bandari from AltioStar. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Great discussion, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.